ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, Text 43. Jyotihi yatha udaka eva udaka parthiveshu adaha jyotiryataivodaka parthiveshu adaha samira vega anugatam vibhavyate samira vega anugatam vibhavyate evam swamaya rachiteshu asau puman evam swamaya rachiteshu asau puman guneshu raga anugataha vimuhyati guneshu raga anugato vimuhyati jyoti yatai vodaka parthiveshu ada samira vega anugatam vibhavyate evam swamaya rachiteshu asau puman guneshu raga anugato vimuhyati. Jyotihi, the luminaries in the sky, such as the sun, the moon, and the stars. Yatha, as, eva, indeed, udaka, in water, parthiveshu, or in other liquids, like oil, adaha, directly, samira vega anugatam, being forced by the movements of the wind. Vibhavyate, appear in different shapes. Evam, in this way. Swamaya rachitesho, in the situation created by one's mental concoctions. Asau, the living entity. Puman, person. Guneshu, in the material world, manifested by the modes of nature. Raga anugataha, according to his attachment. Vimuhyati, becomes bewildered by identification. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Bhai Arvind Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. When the luminaries in the sky, such as the moon, the sun, and the stars, are reflected in liquids like oil or water, they appear to be of different shapes, sometimes round, sometimes long, and so on, because of the movements of the wind. Similarly, when the living entity, the soul, is absorbed in materialistic thoughts, he accepts various manifestations as his own identity because of ignorance. In other words, one is bewildered by mental concoctions because of agitation from the material modes of nature. Can kindly repeat the translation? When the luminaries in the sky, such as the moon, the sun, and the stars, are reflected in liquids like oil or water, they appear to be of different shapes, sometimes round, sometimes long, and so on, because of the movements of the wind. Similarly, when the living entity, the soul, is absorbed in materialistic thoughts, he accepts various manifestations as his own identity because of ignorance. In other words, one is bewildered by mental concoctions because of agitation from the material modes of nature. Purport. This verse gives a very good example by which to understand the different positions of the eternal spiritual soul in the material world and how the soul takes on different bodies. Dehantara praptihi. The moon is stationary and is one, but when it is reflected in water or oil, it appears to take different shapes because of the movements of the wind. Similarly, the soul is the eternal servant of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But when put into the material modes of nature, it takes different bodies, sometimes as a demigod, sometimes a man, a dog, a tree, and so on. By the influence of Maya, the illusory potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the living entity thinks that he is this person, that person, American, Indian, cat, dog, tree, or whatever. This is called Maya. When one is freed from this bewilderment and understands that the soul does not belong to any shape of this material world, one is situated on the spiritual platform, Brahma Bhuta. It's a very long purport. We will try to discuss the balance later. Thus ends the Bhaktivinoda purport and translation to Canto 1, Chapter 1, Text 43 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. This verse is spoken by Vasudeva to Kamsa in his attempt to convince his brother-in-law to desist from killing his sister and thereby become sinful and create a bad destination for himself. So Vasudeva is telling here, he is giving a very nice example, practical example in our experience to understand the position of the soul and how the spirit soul is acquiring different kinds of material bodies. So he's giving the example of the luminaries in the sky, such as the moon, the sun, and the stars. So in the sky, we see the moon, the sun, and many stars. And they're all stationary in the sky. But when those luminaries, like the moon or the sun, is reflected in a liquid, like water or oil, contained in a container, sometimes you may see that when the moon, the sun, when reflected in the liquid, it appears to be shaking, appears to be moving, appears to be taking different shapes. Sometimes round, sometimes log, sometimes long, sometimes irregular shapes. Why? Because when the wind is blowing, then the liquid contained in the container keeps moving. It is shaken up. It is shaking. And whatever form it takes while getting agitated by the movement of the wind, it appears like, for the observer who's seeing the reflection of the moon and the star and the sun, that they are also undergoing changes. Therefore, sometimes you see the moon is also long, moon is round, sometimes moon is irregular. But interesting to notice, the moon is far away from the liquid, not at all in contact with the liquid, actually. Yet, it is appearing that the moon or the sun is taking different shapes to the observer who's looking at the liquid, like water or oil. But when the observer looks up in the sky, he understands actually the moon or the sun is stationary, not at all disturbed by the movements of the wind. It's a very, very important example. Similarly, Vasudeva is telling to Kamsa, because of different materialistic thoughts, the mind is absorbed in. It is appearing that the soul is taking on different bodies based on the different materialistic thoughts of the mind. So here the comparison is, the moon or the sun is like the soul, who's stationary. And the agitation of the wind refers to the agitation of the material modes of nature. And the liquid, like water or oil, which is taking different shapes based on the force of the wind, this refers to the different kinds of bodies which we are taking based on the agitation of the modes on the mind. This is the comparison. So the soul is taking on different bodies based on the different materialistic thoughts produced by the mind. And the soul is accepting these different material bodies and identifying itself with these material bodies. And when it is identifying, it is thinking, the soul is thinking that I am that. I am this. So Prabhupada says in the purport, the living entity is thinking that is this person, that person, American, Indian, cat, dog, demigod, etc. That means if the mind stops producing any materialistic thoughts, then that is the end of transmigration. One should stop the mind from its business of concoctions, material concoctions, different kinds of material desires the mind is producing. That is the business or nature of the mind, to go on producing ideas. Mind is a uh, idea factory. Mind is a desire factory. This is a fact. Mind is an idea and a desire factory. It goes on producing different ideas and different desires, that one can be like this, be like that, enjoy like this, enjoy like that. So continuously the mind is suggesting the soul. And the soul is also taking up the suggestion or advice of the mind, picking up those desires. And accordingly, material nature is providing those bodies to us. So, therefore, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, if those desires are in sattvic mode, of a sattvic nature, then you get sattvic body. If those desires or thoughts are rajasic, you get a rajasic body. If those desires or thoughts are tamasic, you get a tamasic body. So then the question may come, how those desires are cultivated, or how those desires has become the mind's desires. How to produce desires, how to create desires. Because desires are leading towards production of material bodies. So material body is produced based on the desire of the mind, which the soul is picking up. Then one may ask, then how to produce a particular kind of desire of one's choice? Yes, that is by association. That is by association. By what mode the mind is associating with, or the soul is associating with, it produces that kind of desires. So Krishna explains this in the Bhagavad Gita, Karanam guna sangosya sat asad yoni janmasu. Whichever mode you associate with, you develop that kind of desire. Sattvic desire, Rajasic desire, Tamasic desire. Or you can also say you attract that kind of desire. Then further you may question, or we may ask, why am I attracted to that kind of life? Or why is it a particular mode is influencing me? Why is Sattvic mode influencing me? Why have I come under the influence of Sattvic mode? Then that question may be asked. Why have I come under the influence of Rajasic mode? Why have I come under the influence of Tamasic mode? Because of which I am developing Sattvic desire, because of which I am developing Rajasic desire, Tamasic desire. It's a very fundamental question. So that depends on your association with the individual persons. You pick up. The soul originally is pure. He does not know anything about Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. But when he comes in association in this world, he picks up all those things. That is why association is extremely important, whom we associate with. So if you associate with people with materialistic thoughts, you will also pick up those ideas. If you associate with devotees, you will also pick up those kind of desires. If you associate with pure devotee, you will develop pure spiritual devotional desires. So desire is the root cause of development of material body for the spirit soul. So that is why it all begins with whom you're associated with. It all begins with that. So therefore we have to be very careful about our association, whom we associate with. Because you are associating with that person's desires actually. More than physical proximity, we're associating with a person's desires. When you move with somebody, you spend time with somebody, you talk to somebody, actually you will be borrowing his nature. You will be influenced by his nature. Slowly it will transfer. His nature will transfer into you. And you will also start uh, developing that kind of nature whom you associate with. Therefore, Krishna says, you associate with me directly. Manmana, bhava, mad bhaktaha. Krishna is saying, become my devotee. Because then you can develop my qualities. Because the logic is what? You move with some people, you will pick up their desires, their habits, their nature, their style. Same way, if we become a devotee of Krishna, then we will pick up qualities from the Lord. We will also become inspired to develop those qualities. You can see in the Western world, when Srila Prabhupada went, they had no idea of a godly life, of a divine life. In fact, interesting to note, especially in Kali Yuga, people don't have a distinction between divine life and demonic life also. At least in India, we have at least some understanding. Now we may be practicing divine life or not is a different thing. At least we know this is divine life, this is demonic life. This is divine quality, this is demonic quality. Immediately we will detect. Immediately we'll detect. Even a simple person in India can detect this is good quality, this is bad quality. But in the Western world, that distinction also does not exist. You'll be very surprised actually. For example, meat eating. Okay, I may eat, but at least I know it is not okay. Any sinful activity, if somebody if somebody is indulged in, immediately we know this is very bad. Now, I may continue, that's a different thing. At least I know. But for most people in Kali Yuga, that distinction also is not there. Imagine what a risky civilization we are living in. What is Papa Punya distinction also is not being considered and regarded. No. First of all, that subject doesn't come. You want to do something, you do, that's all. You want to eat, you eat. You want to do business, you do business. Whatever you feel like doing, you just do. There's no consideration of good and bad, Papa and Punya in doing something. Unlike in India, at least, before you do something, immediately the thought comes, is it right or wrong? But that thought is not there. No? So this is a very sad state. That means the intelligence of the soul has become that much tamasic that it is not even considering good and bad. And interestingly, the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, if you see, Krishna very deeply analyzes these perspectives. It's very interesting to note this. In Sattva Guna, one can distinguish between right and wrong. And one will choose the right to the wrong. In Tamaguna, exactly the opposite. One does not, one mixes up. One mixes up. Good becomes bad and bad becomes good. That's in Tamoguna. Knowledge becomes ignorance, ignorance becomes knowledge. Right becomes wrong, wrong becomes right. Dharma becomes adharma, adharma becomes dharma. That's in Tamoguna. A saintly person is seen as a non-saintly person. Non-saintly person accepted as a saintly person. This is in Tamoguna. Therefore, we can see today genuine spiritualists who are trying to spread the message of God. They're not being recognized. They're being criticized. But the bogus spiritualists, they're being appreciated and well received. That means the person in Tamoguna, his intelligence cannot discriminate who's a genuine sadhu, who's a bogus uh, spiritualist or a sadhu. He cannot discriminate. Here we see him. See. In the 18th chapter, text 30, 31, 32, Krishna is telling about this point. That understanding by which one knows what ought to be done, what ought not to be done, what is to be feared, what is not to be feared, what is binding, what is liberating. This understanding or intelligence is actually in the mode of goodness. Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha karya akarya bhaya bhaye bandham moksham chaya veti buddhi sa partha satviki. So what is bondage? What is liberating? What kind of activity liberates me? What kind of activity binds me? What is to be feared? It's like papa karmas. To be feared. People have absolutely no fear in Kali Yuga. He can go on killing animals. No issue. And have maintained slaughterhouses. Absolutely no fear. What is to be feared, you see? He has no fear. You ask any meat-eating person, he has absolutely no fear. He's not bothered about the destination of killing animals. Today we have come to the point of even killing people indiscriminately. You can see nations and nations, big bombs, tons and tons of nuclear bombs are being created to throw wholesale into another country. Even as recent as few months back also, it's going on. They have absolutely no fear, no botheration of future, destiny. See? This is called ignorance is bliss. What is to be feared, they don't know. And what is not to be feared, they don't know the distinction. What is to be done, what is not to be done, that also they don't even know. But one who knows, he is in the mode of goodness. Then Krishna is saying, Yaya dharmam adharmam cha karyam cha karyam evacha ayathavat prajanati buddhi sa partha rajasi. That understanding which cannot distinction, that means is confused, not very sure, not clear about what is to be done, what is not to be done, what is religious, what is irreligious. He's confused. He's not clear. You can see some people when we meet, they're not very clear. They cannot distinguish between religious way of life and irreligious way of life. It's all mixed up. Think everything is fine. Who cannot discriminate between action that should be done, action that should not be done. Such a person's intelligence or understanding is in mode of passion. And very strange is understanding or intelligence in the mode of ignorance is here. Krishna is saying, Adharmam dharmam itiya manyate tamasa avrita sarvarthan viparitamsha buddhi sa partha tamasi. That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion, exactly opposite, and religion to be irreligion, under the spell of illusion and darkness, and strives always in wrong direction. Sarvarthan viparitamscha. Sarvarthan means always, viparita, always in the viparita direction, wrong direction. Buddhi sa partha tamasi. Such intelligence is in tamoguna. Understanding is in tamoguna. So this is the position. The Kamsa is like that. Kamsa is a typical representative of the Kali Yuga persons. So he has no consideration of killing a woman. Anything is okay. He was thinking of killing Krishna, a newborn child, to be born child. And he is thinking of killing his sister also. So no consideration. In the Vedic culture, old men, woman, cow, children, brahmana, sannyasi, they have to be given utmost protection and care. This is the Raja, one of the Raja Dharma. It is Raja Dharma. And Kamsa is a Raja. He does not bother about Raja Dharma and this Dharma. So long his sense gratification is not affected, all dharmas will be followed. So long my sense gratification is disturbed, no dharma will be followed. What is my sense gratification? That is my dharma. Finished. That is the ultimate dharma. So for a demonic person, dharma means what is good for him as per his mental concoction. Whatever satisfies his sense gratification, that is dharma. That is right. That is accepted. It is okay. Everything else is rejected. The exact opposite principle of Sharanagati. Sharanagati says, whatever is favorable for Krishna, you accept. Whatever is not favorable for Krishna consciousness or pleasing Krishna, that you reject. But demonic person follows exactly the opposite. What is satisfying me, I accept. What is not satisfying me, I reject. Even from dharma. Okay, this dharma is anukula to my sense gratification, I accept it. This dharma is not anukula to my sense gratification. No, this is not good. Reject it. That is how a demonic person works. So he is actually trapped in that state. He is trapped in that state. And he goes on cultivating that kind of consciousness further. This is what Rishabdev describes as karmatmaka manasa yena sharira bandhaha. It's a fruity mind meant only to satisfy one's senses and one's plans, one's goals, without considering dharma and adharma, without considering one's future destination, future destiny. He's not bothered about destiny. Demonic persons, sinful people are not bothered about destiny. They're not bothered. Although the fact is, you have to face it. But he does not believe, does not accept. But that doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything. Just like a thief may think, nobody is watching me, but the police will come and catch him very soon. If not today, if not now, very soon. But he thinks nobody is watching me. There is no reaction of this act. I can do whatever I want. But the government, the police force is not going to keep quiet. Like that, there are higher forces, higher authorities who are observing the activities of the living entity. Although you yourself may not be able to see them, but you are being observed and everything is being recorded. And accordingly, the destination is awarded by the higher authorities. And nobody is free from this vigilance. So we are being observed every moment. But the demonic person has no idea. And very soon he'll enter into animal species or lower species because of his act. And after that, what is there to speak much? He had the opportunity in the human body, he has misused it. And he lost that opportunity. So, therefore, it begins with association with the persons. And the most desirable association is associating with the Lord by directly chanting his holy name or his instructions in the form of Bhagavad Gita, or by associating with the Lord's pure devotees who are fully and completely divine and have all godly qualities. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarvair gunais tatra samasate suraha. Of all godly qualities. It's very desirable to associate with them. Then you pick up those desires, spiritual desires. And just like material desires produce material body, spiritual desires will lead you to spiritual body. Same formula, same logic, same methodology. So what desire you cultivate, you get that kind of body accordingly. So when the soul is agitated by the modes, and then he creates a certain kind of desire, he identifies with the desire. Now this is the problem. The desire is different, soul is different. The material desire which the soul has concocted through the help of the mind, its instrument, If the soul can see himself or herself separate from the desire, no problem. But the problem here is we identify with the desire and think that desire is me. This is the beginning of illusion. That you become one with that desire. You identify with that desire. You identify with that material thoughts, with the material mind. Beginning with identifying with the material body, the soul identifying with the material body, and then the material mind and the material intelligence, and the desire which is produced by the material mind, the soul identifies. So this is how we are trapped. And we are identifying with this body. And we forget our identity in the midst of all these things. See, mind we have acquired, body we have acquired. It is not me. This much common sense one should have. Sharp intelligence one should have, actually. I have acquired a material body. I have acquired a material mind. Moment you say acquire, that means it is external. It is not me. Because something which is me, I don't have to acquire some. I don't have to acquire. It is me. But material mind, material desire is something which is acquired, not me. This, if we are sharp enough, we can easily understand. Because if it is me, it will always be with me. It will always be with me. It will be by nature. Nothing to acquire. It will be by nature. So material nature is actually acquired at a certain time, certain point of time by the soul. It is acquired. So because it is acquired, you can also give it up. Therefore, the Vedas say, Asangoyam Purushaha, the soul has nothing to do with this material world and everything of this material world. Soul has nothing to do. Asangoyam Purushaha. Therefore, the whole Vedic process, spiritual process is to detach the soul from all material thoughts, which is the cause of material body. So we have to purify, because presently the soul is attached. Saktaha. The soul is attached to material desires, material thoughts, material association. We have to stop that. If you don't stop that, then you cannot stop the cycle of birth and death. That's what Rishabhdev also says. Because you're constantly associating with material desires, material thoughts, materialistic persons, we are producing newer and newer kind of ideas and desires to enjoy in this world in different ways, in different bodies, in different planets. And Krishna is kindly facilitating. But if we want to end this process, then we have to stop the business of material desires, cultivating material desires. And situate ourselves in our spiritual identity with spiritual desires, which is natural to the soul. Desire is there. Soul's nature is to desire. Originally, nature of the soul is to desire. Desire belongs to the soul, actually. The entire material creation is because of material desire. The entire spiritual creation is because of spiritual desire. The spiritual world, devotees are desiring so many ways to serve Krishna. The same thing happens in the temple in this world in the form of deity worship. We desire to dress Krishna in a certain way. We desire to put garland to Krishna in a certain way, in a certain combination. Therefore, every pujari will have his own idea of decorating the deity. I want to put this garland to my Lord. I want to put this dress to my Lord. It's a desire. I want to offer this kind of food to my Lord. This is spiritual desire. I want to build this kind of temple, this kind of architecture to my Lord and give a nice home to my Lord to stay. It's a desire. So these are original spiritual desires, but perverted in this material world for oneself. Same thing is, you see, I want to put a nice garland in this world. I want to wear nice dress in this world. I want to have a nice home in this world. Which all the soul was desiring for Krishna. All those things remain, but it is perverted. That's why Krishna says in the 15th chapter that all our desires in this world is actually a perverted reflection of the spiritual desires. It is false. So therefore, you don't have to give up desire, but you only have to change the object of desire. That's all. That is Krishna. That is perfection. The last point here is the soul being trapped by these material thoughts and desires, and because of its identifying with this material world and material mind, material body, has forgotten his own identity. Therefore, you can see when you speak to people, their soul, they've totally forgotten that their soul. Completely absorbed in body. Completely, 100%. 100%. Even consciousness, when we say, okay, something is conscious, no, that also they think is just a reaction of the material elements. Reaction of the material elements. That's all. They don't think consciousness is different from the body, different from material elements, and material interactions and material reactions, actions and reactions. They don't think so. They think consciousness is a production of material action and reaction. This is how they come to the conclusion. The soul has nothing to do with material action and reaction. Then how do we get information that we are soul different from this material body, material mind? Unless you disassociate, there is no liberation. All your japa, tapa, spiritual activity becomes a wasted effort actually. Therefore, spiritualists who have no fundamental understanding that their spirit soul and still involved in spiritual activities will not derive any spiritual benefit. Without this fundamental understanding that I am a soul different from the body, different from this world, you were doing all spiritual activities, still be absorbed fully in the body and materialistic thoughts. Then what is the benefit for the soul? You have to liberate the soul from these material thoughts. And at least understand what is the true identity of the soul. That Krishna describes in so many places in Bhagavad Gita. At least from that we get information. The only source we get information about the soul is from the Bhagavad Gita, that we belong to Krishna. So many places Krishna has said. Krishna said that Pitaham asya jagato aham bija pradapita. I am the father of all the jivas. Mama yavamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana yura. All living beings are my part and parcel. Then sarva yonishu kaunteya. Krishna is saying all the living beings in this world, I am the seed-giving father. Mama yonir mahad brahma tasmin garmam dadamyaham sambhavas sarva bhutanam tato bhavati bharata. So Krishna is saying that I impregnate material nature and make possible all the births of living beings in this world. Then Krishna says, Sa evaya maya tiyadya yoga prokta puratanaha. I will describe the science of relationship of the jiva and me to you, O Arjuna, and that is Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is saying, what is the relation between all the jivas in this world and myself? Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, Jivera Swarupa hi Krishna Nitya Das. Jiva Swarupa is Krishna Nitya Dasa. Not Jiva Swarupa is not material. Jiva Swarupa is spiritual and connected with Krishna. So like this, if we understand, then we can slowly turn our life and our activities suiting this kind of life, natural life. Then we can liberate ourselves and avoid the risk of repeated birth and death. And comes as a biggest risk of repeated birth and death in demoniac species, life after life, because of his demoniac tendencies and demoniac nature. Life after life, he will take birth in demonic species only. You see, earlier Kamsa, he was Kalanemi. Again a demonic species. Again he became Kamsa. Again he'll take birth in demonic species only. Krishna says in the 9th chapter, life after life, they take birth as demons only. But you can stop this process and go back to the kingdom of God if we disassociate with all these material desires and materialistic thoughts and associate with saintly persons. Stop here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai.